There are lots of ways to make box joints on the table saw and the router table, and the PantoRouter makes great 1/4" and 1/2" box joints fast and accurately. You can even stack 2 or more pieces to cut your cutting time. But what if you want to make a different size, like 3/16 or 3/8 inch, or 10 or 12 millimeter? We made a simple jig to make any size box joints in just a few minutes. It's made of a couple of pieces of scrap plywood, and we used a feature unique to the PantoRouter to dial in a perfect fit. We started by making a 3/8 inch mortise and tenon, because a box joint is very much like a whole series of mortise and tenons, so we're going to use the tenon as our index pin, since we know we can easily size it for a snug fit. We always cut our mortises first. Then we fit the tenon to the mortise using the tapered template to make a perfect fitting joint. We start with our guide bearing near the top of the taper, then make a tenon. Then, without taking it off the table, we test the fit. It will likely be too big, so we move our guide bearing down the taper until we get the fit that we're looking for. Next, we cut the tenon off on the table saw, then squared one end of the tenon with the hand saw. We flushed the plywood step to the top of the table and clamped it using lever knobs. Simple 1/4-20 bolts would also work fine. Next, we raised the table and glued 2 blocks on so the step will be flush with the tabletop next time we use this jig. Our larger vertical mortise and tenon template is centered using the guide bearing shaft in the center hole. Then we mark the location for our box joint index pin. We measured over from the center line on the table by 9/16 inches, then carried the line over the top of the fence. It's not super critical to have this dead center on your jig, but we were being a bit pedantic and got spot on. Then we cut the slot for the modified tenon, which will become our indexing pin. We glued the pin so there's a little space under it to clear sawdust. And the next time we build this kind of jig, we'll also make a little kerf where the plywood pieces meet, so any sawdust that might build up there would be cleared. We then moved our jig over exactly 9/16 inches from the center line of the table. This will put the center of our cut on the center line. We lock down the jig on the front of the table using the lever knobs, then we cut our slot. Cutting box joints is super fast and easy using the same method other box joint jigs do, where the first board is cut, then the second is indexed to the first one so the sockets are offset and the edges align perfectly. Our first test piece was a little tight, so we made a little micro adjuster to help us move the jig over just a fraction. Then we cut a new set of box joints. Our second set was perfect, so we rested the guide bearing in the bottom of the template and lowered the template holder to rest on the thickness gauge. Then we bored a hole about 3/4 of an inch deep to mark the center of our jig. The next time we use the jig, we'll use our centering pointer to locate it perfectly. If you build one of these, send us a photo. We love to see what other PantoRouter users are doing, and we love to learn and share. Happy PantoRouting!